Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the High Five. They said we couldn't do it again, yet here we are. I'm DJ Beefsticks Jr., and I'm here with Brian and Josh, who are going to be breaking down their top 5 players you hate unless they are on your team. We started episode 1 with presidential scandals, and Brian came out hot and took the first episode, so he comes into this one 1-0 against Josh.
Undefeated.
Now we're heading into sports. And coming up, we're going to dive into some Game of Thrones rankings. So a lot of good episodes coming your way. This group has some pretty good range. So top of my mind for this list of top 5 players you hate unless they're on your team is if Josh's list is all Sixers players. How are you guys feeling?
I think you're going to see a lot of range on display here. I'm thinking outside the box for these players.
Okay.
I'm feeling good in my list. Definitely a Philly theme to it, but not exclusively Philly.
Okay.
Yeah, looking to bounce back from my 0-1 start. You know, it's a long season.
Yeah. Indefinite season, I guess you could say. Were you guys doing sports only, or Brian, you said you were thinking outside the box? Does that mean other than sports?
I went with the liberal definition of player.
Okay, nice.
Player could be anybody.
How about you, Josh? Were you sticking just to sports?
I did stick just to sports this time, yeah.
What sports were in your group?
It's a wide range. No hockey of the 4 majors, but I think I've 3 of the 4 majors represented, and the 5th sport, which I would consider soccer or football, as you might call it.
Yeah, for our international audience.
Yeah. I didn't really consider any hockey players in mine, but I've got the other majors in there.
Nice. So hockey fans can drop off at this point.
Yeah.
But I will say for hockey, I would say pretty much any goon that you have on your team, you love him when he's on your team. You hate the goons on the other team. I mean, pretty generally.
Yeah. Any enforcer.
Yeah. All right,
that's the PC term for goon, right? Enforcer.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Do they say henchman in hockey? Is henchman applicable to hockey or no?
I don't think hockey players talk in that many syllables, but potentially.
I've never heard of henchmen in any sports related context.
But it's kind of like a goon.
I do like the word though.
All right, let's jump into the criteria. Brian, since you're the reigning champion, let's start with you. What are your criteria for this list?
So I think they've got to inspire hatred and fear in the opposition. They got to be winners, because everybody hates a good winner. And I think, like I said, the liberal definition of player. So these are players across all of our arenas, political, cultural, sports.
Oh wow. Okay, so you had hatred and fear. They have to be winners, and it's any arena. So basically, all humanity was your sample set.
Yeah, no animals.
No animals. Okay. All right, Josh, what were your criteria?
My criteria, similar to one of Brian's, they have to be good. So similar to his criteria about them being winners, they have to be good. Otherwise, you'd come to hate them if they were on your own team. If they stink, a good example of that is Craig Kimbrell, the closer for the Phillies last year. Great career, illustrious career. But when he came to the Phillies, he was already old and pretty washed up and ended up having a horrible postseason. On the flip side, if they're really good when they go elsewhere after your team, that could be a reason you grow to hate them.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if they achieve more in that new place. Andre Iguodala, Andy Reid, good Philly examples of that. Much more successful after they left Philadelphia.
Horford.
Horford, I have a lot of thoughts on Al Horford, and I'll get to those in a second.
How many seasons did he play on the Sixers? Just one?
And play is debatable. There's a 4-minute clip of Al Horford not trying going around on the internet right now from his time with the Sixers. And again, 1 year. So to find 4 minutes of clips of him not playing hard is pretty tough.
Champion,
bonus
though.
points. Yeah. Huh?
He's a champion, though.
Okay. I'm going to throw up on the microphone before we even start. New microphone, by the way. Hopefully I sound better this week.
You sound great.
Than I did last week. I feel like there was a mic bias against me last week. So maybe this week, subliminally, Brett will be scoring my responses higher. I gave bonus points also for shit talkers. If they're good, it's infuriating. If they're on your team, it's the best. Again, they have to be good, though. And then last criteria, no Cowboys. You can never wash that stank off. Same with Boston Celtics. I probably could have expanded to a few more teams, but those are the two teams I absolutely abhor the most. So an example of a guy who violates all of these rules is the aforementioned Al Horford. One other criteria I forgot. Bonus points if they're really, really ugly or they are really good looking.
Yeah.
So extreme in their look.
Extreme in their looks, right. So think maybe like a hate the face kind of guy. An example. So Al Horford, good example. First of all, not good for my team. Made me hate him even more. His sister, super annoying on Twitter. So she talks a lot of shit on Twitter, but he doesn't necessarily weigh in. So he's not a good shit talker, I would say. He appears to be wearing mascara at all times. You know, the kind of like eyes and eyelashes I feel like girls would kill for.
So he's a hottie, is what you're saying.
I mean, he's got features that look like he's using a filter on like Snapchat at all times. I would, not my preferred look, but I could see how people would find that attractive. I never loved him, but my hate melted away a little bit when he was in Philly. And at that point, he was still more of a Hawk than a Celtic in my mind. But anyway, he violated enough of these criteria that I did not have him on my list. So, yeah, little.
Well, I feel like he got his own exclusion criteria.
Yeah.
Al Horford.
Punk.
Okay. All right. Nice. All right. So, Josh, your criteria must be good or must be a winner, or they can be good when they go elsewhere. Bonus points for shit talkers. When you say no Cowboys or Celtics, you mean they can never have played on either of those teams, or what does that mean?
I mean that they can't be identified like as a Cowboy or a Celtic. So coming over from the Cowboys or the Celtics most recently, or potentially had like a long career with them earlier in their career. There might be players on my list that went to those places afterwards, but not before, because if they came in, I still felt like they had that stank attached to them. So I could never truly love them, even if they were on my team. Al Horford, good example. In football, DeMarco Murray was a free agent. The Eagles brought in, paid a lot of money to after he had a great year with the Cowboys. Never really loved him because to me, he was always kind of a Cowboy.
Gotcha. Okay. And then another criteria for Josh was really ugly or really good looking. So, all right. Great. Let's get into the coin toss and then we'll dive into our list.
Before the toss, how are we doing honorable mentions this week?
After the lists are done.
Okay.
Just in case they show up on someone else's list. I think that'll be the go forward basis. Cool. We'll do honorable mentions after the list. Even though Josh kind of already gave one in Al Horford, I feel like that was kind of like a honorable mention preamble, but it's fine.
No, he was not an honorable mention. He was definitely not anywhere close to my list because he didn't meet any of my criteria.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So this coin toss is brought to you by Lockheed Martin, delivering some of the only products in the world where no primary source reviews are a good thing. Lockheed Martin, you want us on your team. All right. Brian, since you're the reigning champion, you can call it. Do you want heads or tails?
Tails never fails.
It is tails.
Woo!
The 5-cent piece. U.S. tender. Tails.
We might have to check that coin. It's now 2 out of 2 tails. That's not
Just playing
probabilistic.
Just playing the odds, baby. All right.
All right, you want to go first, or you want to defer?
I'm gonna defer to Josh this time.
All right, Josh, you're number 5, please.
So am I gonna run through my entire list, or
no? It's the same as last time.
All
Just
right, all right.
5, then I do my 5. Number
All
5.
right. Number 5. All right. So number 5 is Kyle Lowry. To me, Kyle Lowry really embodies that little pesky guard who is in Lowry in this case, annoying on offense and defense. So he draws a lot of fouls offensively. Some people might call what he's doing a flopping. I would not call it flopping, at least not on offense. And then he takes a lot of charges. So he'll slide in there, and he sells it. He certainly sells the contact. And I think he embodies that kind of player in the NBA. So you could have put a lot of guys in this category. I can run through a few, or I can hold them for the honorable mention. But these are kind of guys I would classify as like try too hard. You know, if you've gone to the gym and played, and guys just playing a little too hard, and you're like, yeah, this is a relaxed game. That to me is kind of like Kyle Lowry. I love him now that he's a Sixer. I loved him previously when he played for Villanova. Came up in Philly. So I've gone back and forth. But when he played for Toronto, and we had that series where, you know, that shot bounced 4 times and went in, Kyle Lowry was on that team. So during that series, it was a little tough to root for him.
I feel like Kyle Lowry is the guy who takes charges in pickup basketball.
yeah, that's a good description. All right, number 5 for Josh is Kyle Lowry. Brian, you're number 5?
All right, I'm going with Mariano Rivera as one of the players that I would hate to see the Mets play against, but he's just so great. You know, it's like 5-time World Series champion, 13-time All-Star, World Series MVP, and you just know that when this guy comes into the game, it's just over. You know, it's like there's nothing that you can do, and I think my hatred comes in from just knowing that, yeah, it's over, and that he's basically shutting the door. And he had the cool Metallica music, and you know, like somebody that you would kill to have on your team, but he's sort of the Grim Reaper when it comes to your team's chances against him, and that's why, and he's just a proven winner. The guy just won his whole career. Hate him.
Any off-season or outside of the game antics from him that make you hate him even more, or was it purely just that once he was in, it was over?
No, absolutely. There's nothing else about him. You know, it's like he's not like, you know, no scandals, nothing else that you could hate him for. So he's just this model citizen, great at his job, first ballot Hall of Famer, and played for my least favorite baseball team, the Yankees.
Yeah.
Checks all the boxes.
Yeah, everybody hates the Yankees, I would say. At least for sure in this group. Okay, Josh, number 4 for you.
Yeah, just quickly on Rivera. Closest thing you can get to kind of like an automatic in sports. And I actually grew up not hating the Yankees because my father was a diehard Yankees fan. He'd grown up in upstate Pennsylvania, in as close to New York as it was to Philadelphia. So I grew up kind of fond of the Yankees. They never really played the Phillies. The Phillies were never good. But then they met in the World Series in 2008 or 2009, the year after the Phillies had won the World Series. We were going for a repeat. And then, so I could see why you would dislike Mo Rivera at that point. Up until then, loved the guy. At that point, I was like, not so much when my team finally had to go against him in a big game. All right. Number 4, Reggie Miller. Never had him on my actual team, and I honestly hated him early in his career. His shot and his face both looked funky. I came to appreciate him later in his career, mostly because I disliked the Knicks teams that he kept butting heads with. And I liked some of his teammates that were on those later Pacers teams, particularly Jermaine O'Neal. For whatever reason, I liked him as a player a lot. Obviously, the trash talk is there. Legendary trash talker to opposing players and courtside fans. And I do have him on one of my go-to NBA Jam teams. He's not a conventional pick, so people I'm playing against usually get a little surprised, and they might even let their guard down a little bit. I throw him in there usually with Rick Smits, and just bomb threes. And I haven't lost once playing with Reggie Miller yet.
How often are you playing NBA Jam?
Every chance I get.
What kind of console are you playing NBA Jam on?
Usually at like a barcade.
You've
A buddy of mine does have one now. You can get them and like set them up for 2 players on like your desktop or tabletop.
Yeah. I used to work for a company that had one. That thing just collected dust. Nobody ever played.
Show us your Dave and Buster's card, Josh.
I've not been to Dave & Buster's in a long time, but there's a place, maybe a future sponsor here in Raleigh called Boxcar that does have NBA Jam.
Oh, nice. Boxcar and Raleigh. Shout out to Boxcar. Okay, 2 NBA players for Josh so far. Brian, who promised us range. No, you're number 4.
One quick comment on Reggie. I think I recently learned that even though he likes to claim that he owns the Knicks, he actually has a losing record at Madison Square Garden. And I mean, this was iconic, so I think I'll give him that.
The choke.
Yeah, and they're just like getting into it with Spike Lee. But yeah, that guy sucks. I would love him if he was on the team though. Okay, ready? My turn. Okay, I'm going football this time with the hand of God himself, Diego Maradona, the golden boy, who, in the words of Jim Rome, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So, for those that don't know, the hand of God is the infamous play in the 1986 World Cup where in the grainy footage, you can kind of see him like head the ball, but his hand is like also there. And that was there before this last championship. That was the last time that they had won the World Cup. And he's just a fucking giant dick, or was. He's dead now. But he was super arrogant, and he, off the field, also was just like kind of a bad boy. I think he, was like doing a lot of drugs. He famously flamed out as the coach of the Argentine national team. But big shit talker, little guy, but champion and incredible dribbling skills. So hate him when he's on the other team, but he did what it took to win. So respect for that, I guess. R.I.P.
And there were rumors that he purposefully put Messi in bad positions early in his international career because he didn't want Messi to outshine him.
Really?
Those are the rumors that I heard, yeah.
Honestly, so petty that I wouldn't put it past him.
Who did he score against in that World Cup with the hand of God? Was it England?
I think England.
Yeah, that's a tough one too because they're the inventors of soccer, and he just thwarted them with a handball.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good one. That's a good one because if he was on your team, you'd love it.
I think he later admitted that it definitely was a handball, but I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
Oh, it was against West Germany, not England.
Oh. West Germany.
Sorry, Deutschland. Still stings. But yeah, I've got some bangers coming up.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Didn't Maradona also end up in politics in Argentina? I might be confusing him with Romario, but that's another situation where you love the guys on your side, you don't like them on the other side. So
Politics or Romario?
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, number 3.
Okay, I'm also gonna go football here, maybe a little surprisingly, for you, Brett. This could have been Tom Brady, but also could have never been Tom Brady because fuck Tom Brady. So I went with Cristiano Ronaldo.
Ooh,
Basically, is a dude who's way too good looking to also be as good as he is at sports. And that increases the hate for sure. I thought about making my football representative Luis Suarez here too, because he's dirty but also kind of diabolical on the pitch. You would love him on your team, kind of hate him on it.
Splash of racism.
Little racism, little biting, some light biting. But again, not good looking enough and not quite ugly enough to get the spot on the list. So I went with Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's a good pick. You're kind of doing like the best of a certain type of player that you hate. Like Kyle Lowry is like the best of the pesky guards. Cristiano, the best of the soccer player strikers, I guess, that are hateable.
Archetypes for sure.
Archetypes. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Any comments on Cristiano, Brian?
I think the Saudi deal also was makes him really hateable for me. That he's just a shameless cash grab, which, you know, if you're being offered that much money, that's not, you know, no knock on you, but for him to pretend like the Saudi league is like a good place to actually play, you know, like that it's competitive and it's not just like a cash grab, makes him all more hateable.
For me, I also really hate his celebration. I think it's a terrible, terrible celebration.
Which one?
Where he
Just like the jump and the...
Yeah. I don't even want to show our audience because I don't want them to hate me.
I do. You know what? I do respect that he does the you know, like the in Saudi Arabia though, where I think it's like illegal. You're not supposed to be doing like Christian gang signs.
They gave him all sorts of special treatment. They made a special arrangement for him. Again, this maybe is just a rumor, but that he could live with his girlfriend, and men and women that aren't married can't live together there, but they made an exception for him. So fuck that guy.
Brian making the crossing himself with his hands motion for those of you just listening and not watching.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Good
I think
call.
didn't he also score like the tying goal in the Brazilian Olympics against the U.S. men's national team? We were beating Portugal, I feel like, till the very end of that game, and then they scored. And I was on the beach in Copacabana, and I was talking a lot of shit to the Portuguese there. And then I kind of had to eat my word, but still a good result for us that it was a tie. But I think it was Ronaldo that scored that.
That sounds right. I don't remember exactly. All right, Brian, you're number 3.
Hate him. All right, this one I'm going full culture, and I'm going with Rachel Dolezal. So for those of you that don't know who that is, she's the white woman who claimed that she was black and was president of the NAACP. And I think you hate her for obvious reasons for being a fraud, but I think if she were on your team, she exhibits all the characteristics of a winner, like doing whatever it takes, including pretending to be a different race, if that's what it takes to be number one. So as much as she was hated and ridiculed, I think you got to respect the hustle for being willing to put it all on the line to claim the championship. In this case, the top job at the NAACP.
She was president of the entire NAACP or just her like local chapter?
I think a chapter.
Okay.
But she was a rising star.
Yeah, she might have been considered as the president for the entire organization at one point.
Chapter president, yeah.
And so which team is she on, though?
What? Her team.
So
Who's
liking her on their team, though?
She's on Team Rachel. I'm just saying that if I were to recruit an all-star sort of scam artist, a group of people that I was, are you willing to do whatever it takes to do this job? I think she's got the credentials. She's got the track record of not being afraid of controversy until it gets discovered, and then you got to backtrack.
That was a fall from grace for sure. All right, before we go into the top 2, I'm just going to recap real quick. So Josh went at number 5, Kyle Lowry, then Reggie Miller, then Cristiano Ronaldo. Brian went Mariano Rivera, Diego Maradona, and then Rachel Dolezal. All right, Josh, heading into the top 2, you're up.
I'm just going to say to that last number by Brian, I'm going to ask for the VAR review, maybe throw a challenge flag. I feel like that would have been a great answer last week. I don't really know if she qualifies as a player, but I'll lodge that complaint and we can move on, and you can consider it after the fact. Maybe give us an update next week after you do some research, Brett. So number 2 on my list, Bryce Harper. Came up with the Nationals, the Washington Nationals, a rival of my Philadelphia Phillies, although not much of a rival because they usually stink. But I vehemently disliked Bryce Harper. I would say pretty good-looking dude, My girlfriend would say very good looking dude, which annoys me. Sorry, ladies, I'm taken. But it even took me a season to warm up to him in Philly because I disliked him so much previously when he was with the Nationals or another team in our division. The Phillies let him come in and kind of play general manager as well. So they let him reach out to a lot of his friends and ended up signing a lot of his friends, like JT Realmuto was, I think, the first big acquisition.
His
and
henchmen.
like many Phillies,
His henchmen.
his henchmen, indeed. His cabinet, his small council, to maybe tease a future episode. And like many Phillies GMs throughout history, he has a taste for the vanilla. So a lot of the guys he brought in are of a particular persuasion.
They're on Rachel's team.
They're on Rachel's team, her actual team, not her stated declared team.
Aspirational team.
Yeah. But so a lot of reasons to hate him, but he has been incredibly clutch for the Phillies. He's hit some massive home runs. Some moments of note, he stared down an Atlanta Braves player who had talked smack last year in the playoffs. That was awesome. There's a great photo of him rounding second base after a home run and looking right at it was the Braves shortstop, Orlando Arcia. And that had come a night after a reporter had overheard Arcia in the locker room mocking Harper because Harper had been thrown out, made a base running blunder on the last play of the previous game that the Braves had won. So he actually stared him down twice in that game because he hit 2 home runs and ran right by him as he was rounding second base. So I throw that into the great shit talking, even though it was silent. The eyes said everything. And he's great at pandering. He rocks shit from other Philly teams, like clothes with, the Eagles or the Sixers or the Union stuff on it. And he has a Philly Fanatic headband that he often wears, Philly Fanatic themed cleats. So, not necessarily doing it for the fashion, really just straight up pandering to the Philly fans, which I respect. So he's adopted Philly, so I have to adopt him.
Didn't he used to say he was a Cowboys fan?
Possibly. He's from Las Vegas. He's also a Mormon.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if he is a Cowboys fan. I wouldn't be shocked. There have been some guys that have come through Philly. Tyrese Maxey, a player I love on the Sixers, grew up in Texas and is a Cowboys fan. So I get it sometimes if you grew up in Texas. But Harper grew up in Nevada, so I don't know if I can forgive that, but still love him.
Yeah, I don't like that guy, just based off of your description of all the Philly stuff that he wears. I don't know much else about him, though.
I mean, he plays for the Phillies, so.
I think what I don't like
gotta wear the Philly stuff.
I think what I don't like about him is that he was good, like, he shot up through the minors, and he was like drafted right out of high school, and he had like that viral, like, that's a clown question, bro moment, and just like not humble at all. And I think for being so gifted, he rubs me the wrong way. And he's played for 2 Mets NL East rivals. So fuck that guy. That's a good hateable guy.
Very cocky, true.
Yeah, very cocky.
Brian, you're up.
All right. So I'm gonna go with a quick history lesson on this one.
Nice.
I'm gonna go with Mexican Robin Hood, Emiliano Zapata. He is a Mexican revolutionary that I won't get into the details because he's got a very long history. But the short of it is that in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when Mexico was under control of a dictator, Porfirio Diaz, he was a rabble rouser. He would get a lot of people, a lot of peasants, a lot of people who wanted land reform in Mexico. He would help them band together, and basically it was he was a champion of the small folk, and he helped lead part of the revolution against this guy. And eventually this dictator gets overthrown, and there's just chaos in Mexican politics for a while. There's different factions, a lot of people fighting, and this guy, him and the Zapatistas, he starts his own movement all end up kind of like fighting against a lot of U.S. interests. So a lot of, like U.S. Ambassadors and U.S. companies who had a lot of interest in Mexico were on the side of the dictatorship. And so this guy was causing them a lot of trouble. And that's why if he's on your team, he's a good leader and, like got shit done. He organized a lot of otherwise disorganized poor people. And, but he was fighting against the big guy. So he ends up being assassinated in a double crossing when he tries to recruit people to join his cause. So he also died. He died a martyr's death. He inspired like a new revolutionary party, and stole from the rich landowners in favor of the little guy. So somebody that if you were those rich landowners, you would hate, but if he was on your team, you would appreciate his ability to get people on board. Mexican Robin Hood.
I gotta say that I like that guy though, based off of that description.
Yeah, because he maybe you identify with this team. Imagine if you weren't on his team, how much of a pain in the ass this guy would be.
You're saying I'm poor.
Yeah. However you identify is up to you.
Yeah.
As Rachel, whatever her name, told us.
Yeah.
Josh, any thoughts on Emiliano Zapata and the Zapatistas before we jump
I would just say
one?
Brian, great at finding really, really high quality names in all of his stories. Porfirio Diaz, Emiliano Zapata, a couple of great names. Had some great names for us last week. I think that's a really great answer.
That's a good point. Brian seemed to have leaned towards Spanish names, and it's nice to hear him say them too.
That's true. There is a Latin bias on my list.
Yeah.
Except for my honorable mentions and my next few are not. So.
Okay. Nice.
I got some haymakers coming.
All right, Josh.
And in the Zapatista movement, very long living. So it's had a long run as well. It's got lasting power for sure.
They're now they're the neo-Zapatistas. They're like a far left group, and they pioneered a lot of guerrilla fighting during like the Mexican Revolution.
Oh, nice.
Hate fighting against those guerrillas.
Josh.
All right. So my number one answer, the guy who I hate the most when he's on the other team, but love when he's on my team, is that Terrell Owens, T.O.
Oh, yeah.
I know, Brett, you can identify as a Niners fan. I had him originally on my fantasy team back when he was still a sleeper, a relative unknown. Then later on my real team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Then he goes to my most hated team, the Dallas Cowboys. So even before he got to Philly, I liked him. Obviously, the disrespecting of the Dallas Star in Cowboy Stadium when he was with the Niners earned him big points in my book. I didn't realize how whiny and annoying 49ers fans were back then, so I actively rooted for them against teams like Dallas. I still do root for them against Dallas, but it's more of a passive rooting, I would say now. Lesser of two evils kind of thing. T.O., though, gave me the most exciting Eagles season of my first 35 years of fandom. Came into a team and immediately gave Donovan McNabb a weapon that he had lacked his whole career. Most fans leading up to that point, we knew the Eagles needed a good wide receiver, but again, Andy Reid, who I mentioned earlier, and some of the other folks running our front office kind of pretended like we didn't need good wide receivers to win, just like they now pretend like we don't need linebackers to win. And we kept losing NFC title games where our receivers could not get open. So we lost one to the Buccaneers, and we lost one to the Carolina Panthers. And our leading receivers in the year before Terrell Owens, get ready for these legendary players of the gridiron: James Thrash and Todd Pinkston. Probably never heard of them. Freddie Mitchell was number 3, a guy who gave himself the nickname Fred X because he had one big catch in his whole entire career. Thrash, or James Trash, as many people in Philly like to call him, were very creative. led the whole team the year prior to T.O.'s arrival with 49 catches and 558 yards. And he started all 16 games that year. So T.O. comes in, only plays 14 games, but goes for 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns before he got hurt on the then legal horse collar tackle from Cowboy safety Roy Williams. That was one of the plays that led the NFL to ban the horse collar tackle. So a little history lesson for you there. And I died a little when he didn't get up off the turf, but he miraculously makes it back for the Super Bowl after he installed a hyperbolic chamber. I still don't know what that is, by the way, but he had one in his living room, aided him in coming back faster than expected from a lower leg injury. I think it was pretty gruesome. I don't remember exactly what it was. And he was our best player then in the Super Bowl after not having played 4 weeks against the cheating Patriots who spied on our practices. He had 9 catches, 122 yards. Other things in his favor, his TD celebrations that year and even before. I love the pulling out the Sharpie. So good. So that falls more into like the shit talking category. He caught a bomb for a touchdown on his first preseason snap as an Eagle. 3 TDs in his first regular season game that year against division rival New York. So fun until later on he takes the heel turn, doesn't get a new contract from the Eagles, holds out, does sit-ups in his driveway as he's talking to a gaggle of reporters.
Shredded.
And then,
Absolutely
and then ends
shredded.
up in Dallas, cringe, crying about how Tony Romo is his quarterback. Puke, the end.
Well done. That's a good summary. So yeah, I mean, I'm surprised to see T.O. at the number 1 spot, but yeah, he's pretty hateable. For me, I just like him because he came up on the Niners, so I can't really hate him even though he was on some other teams.
He was on my short
right.
list. He was up there. I think the infamous sit-ups in the driveway was the chef's kiss for me.
Yeah. All right, Brian, your number 1 spot.
All right. You guys ready for this one? I'm glad that Josh brought up bombs because this one, number 1, is bomb themed. And it's actually a tie between 2 people that are winners at the game of life. These people are the ultimate survivors, and it's scary how much their survival, their ability to survive makes you think of them as kind of hateable because you want them on your team because they're seemingly indestructible. So it's a 2-way tie between these 2 historical figures. I'm going to start with I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Tsutomu Yamaguchi. This guy was a Japanese Marine engineer who survived both bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And this guy, during World War II, he was in Hiroshima working for Mitsubishi when the city was bombed. And he experienced, he was injured, but survived. And then he went back to work 3 days later and was hit by the second bomb in Nagasaki. And his supervisor was like, "You're insane for being at work," but he was just there doing his job. And he's one of the few people that were documented as having survived both of these bombs, the ultimate survivor. And so you don't hate him because he survived a bomb. You hate him because it's scary that this guy has this much will to live. It strikes fear in your heart, at least for me. But it's somebody that you want on your team. That's the kind of winning attitude that I want on my squad. And then I've got the second, very neck and neck, the only woman to ever survive a plane explosion from 33,000 feet in the air without a parachute. This woman's name was Vesna Vulovic, and she was a Serbian flight attendant that survived a plane bombing. And she was the only survivor in the plane crash, but similar characteristics that made her an all-time great on my list, and someone that you definitely want on your team, but not anybody else's team, and that's this Serbian flight attendant who survived being stuck in a food cart behind a food cart in the plane fuselage when it blew up 30,000 feet in the air.
That's good to know. Yeah, if you need to survive a plane crash, you got to go to the food cart.
If you're flying in a Boeing, look her up.
Yeah, those I never heard of either of those people. I don't even really know what to do with that information, but I had no clue that anybody survived these bombings.
Let alone two of them.
Yeah. So that is a little scary, I would say.
Can I just say, Brian clearly hates the living. I'm going to plant my flag as Team Living, and this could be important as we get into Games of Thrones season episodes later.
I think you just got to respect that some people have more of a will to live than others, and you got to make a decision. Do you want them on your team or the opposition?
Yeah. Okay, so to recap the five before we get into the honorable mentions: Josh, all sports; Kyle Lowry, Reggie Miller, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bryce Harper, and then Terrell Owens; Brian, Mariano Rivera, Diego Maradona; Rachel Dolezal, Emiliano Zapata, and then Tsutomu Yamaguchi and Vesna Vulovic. So the names I think definitely go to Brian.
Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers.
Yeah. Okay. How about the honorable mentions? Any that you guys want to bring up?
Yeah, I'll rattle off my three real quick. I had three honorable mentions. Kevin Garnett, all-time trash talker, and I think a petty king. I recently watched an interview with him where he said that he still doesn't like LeBron, and that those Celtics teams don't like those Heat teams still, and they hate Ray Allen. Mr. Beast. I know Brett. This one's for Brett. This is a guy that's committed to his craft, but people hate him because he's so successful, and you definitely want him on your team though. And then the last one was a bit controversial, but Trump. Trump is the guy that you hate to see on the other team, but if he was on your team, guaranteed that you would root for him.
Trump is a good pick, yeah. I have one major honorable mention as a Sacramento Kings fan, Robert Horry, Big Shot Bob.
Yeah.
That guy I cannot stand, but obviously if he was on my team, I would want him.
How many rings does he have? 5, 6?
0 in my opinion. He didn't get those rings. He was just on the team.
I mean, he hit some big shots in pretty much every one of those runs. Also hit one against the Sixers in 2001, that Iverson team. I considered Horry for my list. I also considered KG. I loved him when he was with the Timberwolves. Came to hate him when he played for the Celtics.
Agreed.
Yeah, KG's a good one.
Paul Pierce was up there on mine too. Except I don't even think I would like him on my team. Fuck that.
I could never love him.
Yeah, he's just salty.
I feel like basketball, because the personalities are so important, lends itself to this topic.
You know,
we did also meet Brian's criteria of surviving a stabbing.
That's true. Yeah. So maybe actually on second thought, on further review, maybe he gets bumped up on the list for being a survivor. a strip club? No, I think it's just a nightclub, not a strip club.
All right, I've got to go. If I'm picking.
Wait, what about Josh's honorable mentions?
Oh,
yeah, my honorable mentions are mostly just guards I could have had instead of Kyle Lowry. I'll read a few of them off. T.J. McConnell was one I considered, but I still really love T.J. I could never really hate T.J. McConnell. Pat Bev, another classic in that category, even though he's not really good offensively.
A pest.
Huh?
A pest.
A total pest. Same with Marcus Smart. Total pest.
Yeah.
A nudge, if we want to throw some Yiddish out there. Maybe I would not hate Trae Young if he were on my team. I can't really tell. I might still hate him. He's also looks kind of like the villain from Lord of the Rings. I don't know too much about Lord of the Rings, but I think he's on Team Evil.
He also looks like Waluigi.
He does look like Evil Luigi. Yeah.
Ice Trae.
Huh?
Ice Tray.
Yeah, I can't condone that nickname.
But Waluigi is good though.
Indeed. Yeah, and the last one, Jalen Brunson. I love him. Again, I grew up a Villanova fan, but he's a Knick now. I could see why you would hate him. Throws his head back, to sell contact a lot. But I grew up, a Villanova fan, so I still root for him when he's not playing the Sixers.
Yeah, that's fair. Another big one for me is Richard Sherman. Hated him on the Seahawks. Absolutely hated him on the Seahawks. But then when he came to the Niners, had to like him. He's a good guy.
Who was on my list except he didn't meet the criteria of being a winner is Joel Embiid.
Oh yeah, not a winner. Definitely not a
Decidedly not a winner. So had to leave him off.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Also, can't really walk without getting injured, so I don't think he could survive 2 bombs or a plane crash.
Yeah, no survivability there. All right.
Love him though. Love you, Joel.
This one was a tight race. Very different lists, I would say. But gotta go with Josh because I think everyone on his list is very hateable. Whereas some of the people on Brian's list are interesting picks, but they're kind of likable. Like you kind of like the guy that survived both bombs, and you gotta like Zapata. So I'm going with Josh. Josh, you get 5 seconds of fame. What do you want to plug?
Great question. I have not really thought this far in advance, but I will say I still love Joel Embiid. I still love the process. And I will prepare better for winning in the future. This is new to me, new ground. Haven't really been here before. Wasn't really ready for it. Yeah.
All right. So he endorses Joel Embiid. So coming up, we're going to jump into Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for that. A few good topic ideas for Game of Thrones. But we'll be back with the Game of Thrones episode. And thank you guys for the list today. It was fun.
I'll be back to avenge my loss. Never forget.
I should have gone with "I'm so happy, man," to quote Carlos Chuch Ruiz, formerly of the Philadelphia Phillies.